The rain hammered against the windshield as Elena Martinez drove down the muddy road leading back to San Rafael village. Thunder cracked overhead, and through the downpour she saw it. Twisted metal wrapped around an ancient oak tree, smoke billowing from the engine. Elena slammed on her brakes and jumped out. Her teacher's instincts kicked in immediately. Someone needed help. "Hello. Can anyone hear me?" she shouted over the storm. A groan answered her. Inside the wreckage, a man slumped against the steering wheel, blood trickling from his temple. The luxury car's interior was filling with smoke. Elena didn't hesitate. She grabbed a rock from the roadside and smashed the passenger window. Glass scattered as she reached inside, fumbling for the door lock. The man's eyes fluttered open, dark, intense, and filled with pain. "Don't move me," he whispered hoarsely. "Dangerous. People looking." "You need a hospital," Elena insisted, but his hand gripped her wrist with surprising strength. "No hospitals. Please. Hide me." Elena's mind raced. This was insane. But something in his desperate gaze convinced her. She pulled him from the wreckage just as flames began licking at the hood. They collapsed together onto the wet grass as the car exploded behind them, the heat wave pushing them forward. The man passed out in her arms. Elena checked his pulse, steady but weak. She couldn't take him to the clinic without questions. Her small cottage was closer. Using every ounce of strength, she dragged him to her car and drove through the storm to her grandmother's old house on the edge of the village. The wooden structure looked humble against the lightning-streaked sky. Inside, she laid him on her bed and began assessing his injuries. A deep gash on his arm, possible broken ribs, bruises everywhere. But nothing immediately life-threatening if she could stop the bleeding. As she cleaned his wounds, Elena studied his face. Even bruised and bloodied, he was striking. His clothes, though torn, were clearly expensive. The watch on his wrist probably cost more than her annual salary. "Who are you?" she whispered to the unconscious stranger. Outside, headlights swept across her window. A black SUV slowed on the road, its occupants clearly searching for something. Elena held her breath until it passed. She had just saved a man's life. But as dawn approached and he lay unconscious in her bed, Elena realized she might have also invited danger into her quiet village life. The stranger's eyes opened as the first light crept through her window. They locked onto hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Thank you," he murmured. "You saved my life." "Who are you?" Elena asked again. "And who's after you?" He closed his eyes. "My name is Adrian. And the less you know, the safer you'll be." Elena crossed her arms. "You're bleeding on my grandmother's quilt. I think I deserve more than that." A ghost of a smile touched his lips before pain washed it away. "Then prepare yourself, Elena Martinez. Because the truth is going to change everything." As sirens wailed in the distance and the village began to wake, Elena had no idea that the man she'd rescued wasn't just anyone. He was Prince Adrian Castellano, heir to one of the world's wealthiest kingdoms, and someone very powerful wanted him dead. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to find out what happens next. Will Elena discover Adrian's true identity? Comment below with your predictions. Part coming soon. Crown 2 hearts. 3 days passed, and Adrian remained hidden in Elena's cottage. The village buzzed with rumors about the car crash on the mountain road, but no body had been found. Search teams combed the forest while Elena tended to her mysterious patient in secret. "You need to eat something," Elena said, bringing him soup her grandmother used to make. Adrian sat up slowly, wincing. His wounds were healing, but he was still weak. "You're taking a huge risk hiding me." "I know." Elena set the bowl on the nightstand. "Which is why you're going to tell me the truth. All of it." Adrian studied her, this village school teacher with fire in her eyes and stubborn determination in her jaw. She deserved honesty. "I'm not just Adrian," he began. "My full name is Adrian Castellano. My family rules the Castellano territories. Oil, technology, real estate. We control billions. Elena's hand flew to her mouth. You're royalty? Close enough. My father is dying, and I'm next in line to control everything. But my brother Marcus wants that power for himself. Adrian's voice turned bitter. The accident wasn't an accident. Marcus hired people to kill me. Elena sank into the chair beside the bed. Your own brother? Power does terrible things to people. Adrian reached for her hand. That's why I can't go back yet. Not until I have proof of what he's done. Before Elena could respond, a knock rattled her door. She jumped up, panic flooding her chest. Elena? You in there? The voice belonged to Carlos, the village chief. Need to talk about the schoolhouse repairs. Adrian was already sliding off the bed, moving toward the closet despite his injuries. Elena gestured frantically for silence and cracked open the door. Chief Carlos. Sorry, I was resting. Not feeling well. The older man's weathered face creased with concern. You look pale, Mija. This about that crash. Whole village is on edge. Just a headache, Elena lied, forcing a smile. Can we discuss the repairs tomorrow? Carlos nodded slowly, but his eyes swept past her into the cottage. Sure thing. You take care now. Strange times we're living in. When he left, Elena sagged against the door. Her heart hammered so hard she thought it might burst from her chest. This can't continue, she whispered. Someone will find out. Adrian emerged from the closet. Then help me get evidence against Marcus. There's a detective in the capital. Someone I trust. If I can reach him. You can barely walk. I'm stronger than I look. To prove it, Adrian took a few steps, though his face tightened with pain. Besides, I won't let you take all the risk. This is my fight. Over the next week, an unlikely partnership formed. Elena used her laptop to help Adrian contact Detective Rivera, his trusted ally in the capital. They sent encrypted messages, building a case against Marcus. But village life made secrets impossible to keep. Elena's best friend Maria grew suspicious of her odd behavior. The way she rushed home after school, refused dinner invitations, and jumped at every unexpected sound. You're hiding something, Maria confronted her one afternoon at the village market. Is it a man? Elena, if you're in trouble. I'm fine, Elena insisted, buying extra bandages and medicine. Just been busy with lesson planning. Maria's eyes narrowed at the supplies. For a month of injuries? Elena, what's really going on? Before Elena could answer, a convoy of black vehicles rolled into the village square. Men in suits emerged, showing badges and photos to villagers. Elena's blood ran cold when she saw the picture they were distributing. Adrian's face stared back from wanted posters plastered on every wall. Missing person, one agent announced. Prince Adrian Castellano. Last seen near this area. Substantial reward for information leading to his recovery. The village erupted in whispers. A prince. Here. Maria grabbed Elena's arm. Isn't that? Elena, your face just went white. Do you know something? Elena shook her head, but her hands trembled as she clutched her shopping bag. I need to go. She ran home, her mind racing. They were out of time. If Marcus's people were here, searching door to door, they'd find Adrian within days, maybe hours. When she burst through her door, Adrian was already on his feet, watching through a crack in the curtains as agents questioned villagers. They're saying I'm missing, he said quietly, making Marcus look like the concerned brother. Clever. What do we do? Elena's voice cracked. They'll search every house. Adrian turned to her, his expression resolute. Then I stop hiding. I go back and face him. That's suicide. Not if I do it publicly. If I show up alive at the Capitol Courthouse with Detective Rivera, Marcus can't touch me without exposing himself. Adrian moved closer, his hand cupping her cheek. But I need to go alone. You've done enough. Elena pulled away, anger flashing in her eyes. After everything? You think I'll just let you walk into danger? I think you've already risked too much for someone you barely know. Maybe I know you better than you think. Elena's voice softened. I've seen you these past weeks. The way you talk about wanting to help people, to use your family's wealth for good instead of power. That's not a stranger anymore. Adrian's eyes searched hers, and for a moment, the weight of their impossible situation pressed down on them both. A prince and a teacher. Two worlds that should never have collided. If I survive this, Adrian whispered, I'm coming back for you. Then you better survive, Elena replied fiercely. That night, they made their plan. At dawn, Adrian would leave for the capital with evidence Detective Rivera had helped them compile. Elena would stay behind, maintaining her normal life, drawing no attention. As the first light of morning broke, they stood at her door. Adrian was dressed in the simple clothes she'd bought him at the market. No one would recognize the prince in worker's jeans and a faded shirt. Thank you, Elena, he said. For saving my life. For believing me. For. She kissed him, cutting off his words. It was brief, desperate, filled with all the things they couldn't say. When she pulled back, tears glistened in her eyes. Come back to me, Adrian Castellano. I promise. He walked into the morning mist, disappearing down the mountain path. Elena watched until she could no longer see him, her heart aching with fear and hope in equal measure. She didn't know that watching from the trees was one of Marcus's men, phone already raised, texting his boss. Found him. Village teacher hiding the prince. What are your orders? Adrian made it to the capital, but Elena's troubles were just beginning. By noon, 3 black SUVs rolled up to her cottage. Men in expensive suits emerged, their faces hard and businesslike. Elena was in her garden when they arrived, her hands dirty from planting tomatoes, the same innocent activity that had filled her weekend for years. Now, it felt like a thin disguise. Miss Martinez. The lead agent flashed credentials. We need to ask you some questions about Prince Adrian Castellano. Her heart hammered, but she kept her voice steady. I saw the posters. Is he all right? That's what we're trying to determine. The agent's eyes swept over her cottage. May we come inside? Elena had no choice. She led them in, watching as they examined every corner of her small home. They found the bloody bandages in her trash, the men's clothes in her closet, the makeshift medical supplies. Interesting collection for someone who lives alone, the agent observed. I volunteer at the village clinic, Elena replied. Always keep supplies on hand. And the men's clothing? My brother visits sometimes. The lies felt heavy on her tongue, but she held their gaze. They had no proof yet. She'd been careful to destroy anything that could directly link Adrian to her home. After an hour of questions that went in circles, the agents finally left. But the damage was done. By evening, the entire village knew that Elena Martinez had been questioned about the missing prince. The whispers started immediately. She was hiding him all along. That school teacher. With a prince. She's after his money, obviously. Scandalous. What will the children's parents think? Maria showed up at her door that night, arms crossed. The truth, Elena. Now. Elena sank onto her porch steps, exhausted. I found him after the crash. He was dying, Maria. What was I supposed to do? Call for help. Not hide a fugitive prince in your bedroom. Maria's voice rose, then softened. Elena, you could lose everything. Your job, your reputation, your safety. I know. Elena's voice cracked. But I couldn't let him die. And now. She couldn't finish. Now her heart was involved in ways she hadn't anticipated. Maria sat beside her, silent for a long moment. You love him. It wasn't a question. Elena nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. I'm so stupid. He's a prince. I'm a village teacher. It could never work. Love isn't stupid, Maria said softly. But it sure is complicated. That night, Elena's phone buzzed with an unknown number. Made it safely. Detective has the evidence. Marcus will be arrested within 48 hours. Thank you for everything. Relief flooded through her. He was alive. He was safe. But the message felt so formal, so final. No promises about coming back. No mention of what they'd shared. Elena typed and deleted a dozen responses before finally sending. Stay safe, Prince Adrian. The next morning, her world exploded. News crews descended on San Rafael like locusts. Cameras pointed at her cottage, reporters shouting questions. The story had broken nationwide. Prince Adrian survives assassination attempt. Village teacher saved his life. Elena couldn't leave her house without microphones thrust in her face. Miss Martinez, were you romantically involved with the prince? Did you know about the plot against his life? Are you expecting compensation for saving him? The school board called an emergency meeting. Parents demanded answers. How could they trust their children with a woman who'd harbored a fugitive, even if he was royalty? I did what anyone should do, Elena told the board. I saved a life. You compromised this village's safety, Councilman Torres snapped. Criminals came here searching for him. What if there had been violence? But there wasn't. You're suspended pending investigation, the board chairwoman announced. We'll determine if you're fit to continue teaching. Elena walked out of that meeting feeling hollowed out. Everything she'd worked for, her career, her reputation, her place in this village, crumbled because she'd done the right thing. Meanwhile, in the capital, Adrian stood before a panel of judges and presented Detective Rivera's evidence. Bank transfers, communications, testimony from the would-be assassins Marcus had hired. The case against his brother was ironclad. Marcus was arrested in his own mansion, his face twisted with rage as cameras captured everything. This isn't over, he screamed as they led him away. You think you've won, Adrian? You've made enemies more powerful than you know. Adrian's mother, the elegant Dona Isabella, wept as both her sons faced off in the public eye. How did our family come to this? She asked Adrian privately. All this wealth, this power, and we've destroyed ourselves with it. Not destroyed, mother, Adrian said gently. Saved. Marcus would have ruined everything father built. Now we can rebuild properly. And what about that teacher? His mother's eyes were sharp. The village girl all the papers are talking about? Adrian's jaw tightened. Elena saved my life. So you'll repay her with money and move on? No. Adrian's voice was firm. I'll repay her by becoming the man she believed I could be. But becoming that man meant facing his responsibilities. The family business needed him. Political allies demanded his attention. His father's health declined rapidly, forcing Adrian into decisions about succession. Days turned into weeks. Adrian sent money to San Rafael, funding for a new school, clinic upgrades, infrastructure improvements. But he didn't come himself. Elena watched her village transform with bittersweet pride. Children had new textbooks. The clinic had modern equipment. Roads were paved. All because she'd saved a prince's life. But the price she'd paid felt steep. Parents still whispered. Some pulled their children from her classes when she was finally reinstated. Maria tried to be supportive, but even their friendship felt strained. He's forgotten you, Maria said one evening, though not unkindly. He's back in his world. You need to move on. Elena knew she was right. But her heart wasn't ready to let go of those stolen weeks when a prince had been just a man, and she'd been just a woman, and the connection between them had felt more real than anything she'd ever known. 1 month after Adrian left, Elena received a formal invitation. the Castellano family requests the honor of your presence at a charity gala benefiting rural education initiatives. Her hands trembled as she read it. Was this closure? A polite thank you? Or something more? You have to go, Maria insisted. You've earned it. Besides, you need to see him one more time. Get whatever this is out of your system. Elena borrowed a dress from Maria. Nothing fancy, but respectable. She felt like a fraud stepping into the capital's glittering ballroom, surrounded by jewels and designer gowns. Then she saw him. Adrian stood across the room, impossibly handsome in a tailored tuxedo, his injuries healed, his bearing every inch the prince he was born to be. He was talking to dignitaries, laughing at something an ambassador said. He looked happy. He looked like he belonged. He looked nothing like the broken man who'd bled on her grandmother's quilt. Elena's courage faltered. This was a mistake. She turned to leave. Elena. His voice stopped her. She turned back to find Adrian pushing through the crowd. His eyes locked on hers with that same intensity that had pierced through her that rainy night. You came, he breathed, reaching her side. You invited me, she replied, proud that her voice stayed steady. I wasn't sure you would. After everything, I thought. He trailed off, seeming uncertain for the first time since she'd met him. Thought what? That you'd moved on. That you'd realized a village teacher and a prince make no sense. Elena's heart cracked open. And do we make sense? Adrian took her hand, and the ballroom seemed to quiet around them. No. We make no sense at all. His thumb traced her knuckles. But I haven't stopped thinking about you for a single day. You're the last thought before I sleep and the first when I wake. You're in every decision I make, every reform I push through. I keep asking myself, what would Elena do? What would she want me to do with this power? Tears pricked Elena's eyes. Adrian. I know I have no right to ask this. You have your life, your school, your village. But Elena Martinez, I need to know. Is there any chance you could love a fool who took too long to realize what matters most? The ballroom waited. The world waited. And Elena, looking into the eyes of the man she'd saved, the prince who'd saved her in return, knew her answer. I already do, she whispered. God help me, I already do. The kiss that followed Adrian's confession made headlines worldwide. Cameras captured the moment the prince and the village teacher embraced in the middle of the charity gala, and by morning, their photo was on every news site and magazine cover. Prince Adrian's commoner love. The teacher who tamed a royal heart. Cinderella story or scandal. Public opinion split sharply. Some celebrated their romance as a modern fairy tale. Others condemned it as inappropriate. A prince should marry nobility, someone of equal standing, not a simple schoolteacher. Elena woke in a luxury hotel room Adrian had insisted on booking for her, her phone exploding with notifications. Messages from reporters, distant relatives suddenly interested in her life, and villagers both supporting and criticizing her. One text stood out, from an unknown number. You don't belong in his world. Leave before you embarrass yourself and drag him down with you. Elena's hands trembled as she deleted it. But more appeared. Anonymous threats, warnings, cruel comments about her background, her appearance, her worthiness. Don't read those, Adrian said when he arrived that morning. He'd barely left her side since the gala. Jealous people hiding behind screens. They're not wrong though, Elena said quietly. I don't know your world. I don't know how to curtsy to dignitaries or which fork to use at state dinners. I teach children to read, Adrian. That's what I know. And that's what makes you perfect. Adrian pulled her close. I'm drowning in people who know all the right protocols but have forgotten what actually matters. You haven't. A sharp knock interrupted them. Detective Rivera entered, his expression grave. Your Highness, we have a problem. Marcus's trial starts next week, but his lawyers are building a defense that might work. What defense? Adrian demanded. We have evidence. They're claiming you staged everything to frame him. That you faked the assassination attempt to gain public sympathy and consolidate power. Rivera paused. And they're using Miss Martinez as proof. Elena's stomach dropped. What? How? They're saying you were in on it. That you rescued Adrian as part of an elaborate scheme. That you're a manipulative social climber using this situation to elevate yourself. That's insane. Elena's voice rose. I saved his life. I risked everything. I know, Rivera said gently. But Marcus's team has found witnesses willing to testify that you seemed unusually prepared for the rescue. That you had medical supplies already at home. That you're deeply in debt with student loans and saw an opportunity. Elena felt sick. They were twisting her every action, turning her compassion into calculated greed. We fight back, Adrian said firmly. We tell the truth. The truth looks complicated right now, Rivera warned. The public loves a fairy tale, but Marcus's lawyers will paint her as the villain. She'll be torn apart in court and in the media. Over the next week, Elena experienced hell. Reporters camped outside her cottage. Old classmates sold stories about her, some true, most embellished or outright lies. Every aspect of her life became public fodder. Elena Martinez struggled financially throughout college. Former boyfriend claims she always dreamed of marrying rich. Village sources say she was obsessed with royal families. None of it was true, but truth didn't matter when sensation sold better. The school board called her in again. We're terminating your contract, Miss Martinez. This situation has become too disruptive. Parents are concerned about the example you're setting for their children. What example? Elena demanded, tears streaming down her face. That you should save someone's life? That you should help people in need? That you should chase after wealthy men, Councilman Torres said coldly. Regardless of your intentions, the perception has damaged our school's reputation. Elena cleaned out her classroom that afternoon, each removed item, her books, her lesson plans, the drawings children had made for her, feeling like a piece of her heart torn away. Adrian was furious when he learned. I'll fix this. I'll buy the damn school. No. Elena's voice cracked. Don't you see? That's exactly what they'll say I wanted. That I got you to use your money to help me. It'll just make everything worse. Then what do we do? Maybe. Elena's voice broke. Maybe we need to stop seeing each other. At least until the trial is over. Until things calm down. Absolutely not. Adrian grabbed her hands. That's what Marcus wants. He's trying to isolate me, to make me give up the one person who keeps me grounded. Or maybe he's showing me that I don't belong in your life. Elena pulled away, walking to the window. I've lost my job, Adrian. My reputation. Some days I can't leave my house without people hurling insults. And for what? For a relationship that might not even survive your world. It will survive because we'll make it survive. You don't know that. Elena spun around. You're a prince. You have duties, expectations, a mother who's made it clear she doesn't approve of me. My mother will come around. Will she? Because yesterday she gave an interview saying you needed to focus on your responsibilities and not be distracted by youthful infatuations. Elena's voice turned bitter. That's what I am to her. A distraction. An inconvenience. Adrian had no response because she was right. His mother had been polite but distant, making it clear that Elena, while admirable, wasn't suitable as a long-term partner for someone of Adrian's status. The trial began the following week. Elena sat in the gallery, feeling every eye on her as Marcus's defense team painted her as a co-conspirator in a scheme to frame an innocent man. Isn't it convenient, the lead attorney drawled, that Miss Martinez just happened to be passing by when the prince's car crashed? That she just happened to have medical training? That she just happened to hide him away instead of seeking proper medical care? I was driving home from school, Elena said when called to testify. It was raining. I saw the crash and stopped to help. That's what normal people do. Normal people call emergency services. He begged me not to. He said people were trying to kill him. Or perhaps he said that to make you feel special. To make you complicit in his scheme. The questions continued, each one designed to make her doubt herself, to make the jury doubt her. By the time she left the stand, Elena felt bruised and battered. But then Detective Rivera presented the evidence. Concrete proof of Marcus's hired assassins, of bank transfers, of communications planning Adrian's murder. The defense tried to dismiss it as fabricated, but the evidence was too solid. The jury deliberated for 3 days. Elena spent those days hiding in Adrian's private estate, unable to face the media circus. She gardened to keep her hands busy, replanted herbs, tried to find peace in the simple act of nurturing growth. Adrian found her there on the evening of the 3rd day, dirt under her nails, hair tied back with a garden ribbon. "The verdict's in," he said quietly. "They'll announce it in an hour." Elena nodded, wiping her hands on her jeans. Together, they watched the announcement on television. "We the jury find the defendant, Marcus Castellano, guilty of conspiracy to commit murder." Relief flooded through Elena, followed quickly by exhaustion. It was over. Finally over. But as they watched Marcus being led away in handcuffs, his eyes found the camera, and his voice rang out. "My brother chose a peasant over his family. Let the kingdom see what kind of man leads them now." The words hung in the air, a final poisonous gift. That night, lying in Adrian's arms, Elena whispered, "He's right though. I'll always be the peasant who doesn't fit. Your people will never fully accept me. Then I'll spend every day proving them wrong," Adrian murmured into her hair. "Starting tomorrow." "What happens tomorrow?" "Tomorrow, I show them exactly what kind of man I am. And exactly what kind of queen you'll be." Elena's heart stopped. "Queen. Adrian, I never said." "I know. And I'm not asking yet. Not until you're ready. But Elena, you should know, that's where this is heading for me. You're not a distraction or an infatuation. You're my future, if you'll have me." In the darkness, Elena felt tears slip down her cheeks. Part joy, part terror. Because being Adrian's future meant becoming something she'd never imagined, never prepared for. But maybe, she thought, love wasn't about being prepared. Maybe it was about being brave enough to step into the unknown together. "Ask me when we get through whatever comes next," she whispered. "If we survive your world, then we'll talk about the future." "Deal," Adrian said, and sealed it with a kiss. Neither of them knew that surviving his world would require more strength than either of them had imagined. 6 months after Marcus's conviction, Elena stood in her new classroom. Not in San Rafael, but in the capital's most underprivileged district. The school was Adrian's gift, not just to her, but to hundreds of children who'd never had access to quality education. But it was more than a building. It was proof that she could be both herself and part of Adrian's world. "Miss Martinez." A little girl named Sophia ran up, waving a drawing. "Look. I drew you and Prince Adrian." The picture showed 2 stick figures holding hands under a heart. Elena's eyes misted as she hung it on the wall beside dozens of others. These children didn't see her as a social climber or an outsider. They saw her as someone who cared. "It's beautiful, Sophia." "Thank you." That evening, Adrian picked her up in an unmarked car, their compromise for privacy. They'd learned to steal moments away from the cameras, from the expectations, from the weight of public opinion. "How was your day?" he asked, pulling her close. "Perfect." Elena smiled. 12 new students enrolled. "We're going to need another teacher soon." "Consider it done." Adrian kissed her forehead. "And how are you?" "Really?" Elena understood what he was asking. The past months hadn't been easy. Despite Marcus's conviction, criticism of their relationship continued. Opinion pieces questioned whether a prince should marry below his station. Adrian's mother, while more accepting, still maintained a polite distance. I'm okay, Elena said honestly. Some days are harder than others. But I'm okay. I hate that you have to endure this because of me. I endure it because I love you. Elena cupped his face. But Adrian, we need to talk about the future. Your mother is pressuring you about succession. The council wants certainty. And You want to know if I'm serious. I want to know if we're serious. Not just in love, but realistic about what a life together would mean. Elena took a breath. If we do this, if we really commit, I'll become Princess Elena. I'll have duties, expectations, a whole country watching my every move. And I need to know, is that what you want? Not just me, but all that comes with me. Adrian was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled the car over, turning to face her fully. Elena, you've asked the wrong question. The question isn't whether I want all that comes with you. The question is whether you want all that comes with being my wife. His hand reached into his jacket pocket. Elena's heart stopped as he pulled out a small velvet box. I was going to wait, Adrian said, his voice rough with emotion. Plan something elaborate. But you're right, we need certainty. So here's mine. He opened the box, revealing a ring that took Elena's breath away. Not gaudy or oversized, but elegant, a deep blue sapphire surrounded by small diamonds. It was my grandmother's, Adrian explained. She was a commoner too. A nurse who married my grandfather during the war. Everyone said it wouldn't last, that she'd never fit in. But she became the most beloved queen our family ever had, because she never stopped being herself. Tears streamed down Elena's face. Elena Martinez, you saved my life that rainy night. But you've done more than that. You've shown me what it means to lead with heart instead of just power. You've made me want to be better, to do better. And I know our road won't be easy. I know there will be people who doubt you, who criticize us. But I also know that I want to face all of it with you by my side. He took her trembling hand. Will you marry me? Will you be my princess, my partner, my queen? Elena couldn't speak past the lump in her throat. All the doubts, all the fears, they didn't disappear. But looking into Adrian's eyes, she saw something more powerful than fear. She saw home. Yes, she whispered. Yes, 1,000 times yes. The ring slid onto her finger perfectly, as if it had been waiting for her all along. They kissed as the sun set over the capital, two people from different worlds choosing to build a new one together. The wedding took place 3 months later in San Rafael village. Adrian insisted on it, despite his mother's protests that a royal wedding should be held in the cathedral. This is where our story began, he told the press. This is where Elena saved my life. These are our people. The entire village transformed into a celebration. Flowers decorated every street. Children wore their Sunday best. And in the small village church where Elena had been baptized, she walked down the aisle in a simple white dress, her grandmother's veil, and tears of joy. Dona Isabella attended, softened by months of seeing her son happier than he'd ever been. She took Elena's hands before the ceremony, her eyes misty. My mother-in-law was also a commoner, she said quietly. I never understood why my husband spoke of her with such reverence until now. You remind me of her. Strong, compassionate, unafraid to challenge tradition. I'm terrified, Elena admitted. Good. Isabella smiled. Anyone who isn't terrified of this life is a fool. But you'll have help. From me, from people who love Adrian, and most importantly, from each other. It was the blessing Elena hadn't known she needed. Chief Carlos walked her down the aisle. Her father had passed when she was young, and Carlos had been like family her whole life. Maria stood as her maid of honor, tears streaming down her face. And Adrian waited at the altar, looking at Elena like she was the only person in the world. Dearly beloved, the village priest began, his voice carrying through the packed church, we gather today to witness a love that has defied every obstacle. Elena barely heard the rest. She was lost in Adrian's eyes, in the warmth of his hands holding hers, in the certainty that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. I, Adrian Castellano, take you, Elena Martinez, to be my wife. Adrian's voice was steady and strong. I promise to honor your dreams as I honor my duties. To lift you up when the world tries to tear you down. To be your partner in every sense of the word. In power and in service, in wealth and in simplicity, in celebration and in struggle, I choose you. Every day, for the rest of my life, I choose you. Elena's voice trembled as she spoke her vows. I, Elena Martinez, take you, Adrian Castellano, to be my husband. I promise to stand beside you, not behind you. To remind you why we serve when duty feels heavy. To bring you home to earth when crowns feel too weighty. In palace halls and village streets, in spotlight and in shadow, in certainty and in doubt, I choose you. Every day, for the rest of my life, I choose you. When they kissed, the church erupted in cheers. Outside, villagers rang bells and threw flowers. News cameras captured every moment, but for once, Elena didn't care who was watching. She was Princess Elena now. But more importantly, she was still herself. 1 year later, Elena stood in the completed community center, another project Adrian had funded, but that she had designed and managed. It housed classrooms, a medical clinic, a library, and a computer lab. Children from 3 surrounding villages attended daily. Princess Elena. Sophia, now reading at a 5th grade level, ran up with a book. Can you read with us? Always, Elena said, settling onto the floor with a group of children. Being a princess meant ceremonies and state dinners and charity galas. But it also meant she could do this, sit on the floor in jeans and a t-shirt, helping children discover the magic of stories. Adrian found her there an hour later. He'd been in meetings all day about economic reforms. Policies Elena had helped him develop to support rural communities. Ready to go home? He asked. Home was an apartment in the capital, far less ostentatious than the main palace. They'd made it their own, filled with books, photographs from the village, and a small garden where Elena grew herbs. Almost. Elena stood, brushing dust from her jeans. Sophia just finished her first chapter book. Adrian's smile was pure pride, not for himself, but for her. Then we should celebrate. Ice cream on the way home. You're going to ruin your royal figure, Elena teased. I have a very wise wife who reminds me that life is about more than appearances. They drove home as sunset painted the sky gold and pink. In the back seat, Elena's phone buzzed with messages. Interview requests, charity invitations, the endless demands of public life. But she also had a message from her new principal. 20 more students enrolled this week. We're changing lives, Princess. Thank you. Elena smiled, typing back. We're doing it together. Regrets? Adrian asked suddenly. Elena looked at him. This prince who'd stumbled into her life broken and bleeding, who'd shown her a world beyond her village while never asking her to abandon her roots. Not a single one, she said honestly. It's not the life I imagined. It's harder, messier, more complicated. But it's ours. It's ours, Adrian agreed, taking her hand. That night, they attended a state dinner. Elena wore a designer gown and the sapphire ring that had belonged to Adrian's grandmother. She made small talk with ambassadors and smiled for cameras. But later, back in their apartment, she changed into comfortable clothes and curled up with Adrian on their couch, eating leftover pizza and watching a documentary about education reform. This is what I love most, Elena murmured. Not the galas or the titles. This. Just us. Just us, Adrian echoed. Though I should mention, my mother called. She wants to talk about potential heirs. Elena laughed. Already? We've only been married a year. I told her we're in no rush. We have a kingdom to improve first. Adrian pulled her closer. Besides, I'm still enjoying having you all to myself. Elena kissed him, tasting tomato sauce and promises. Outside their window, the capital city glowed with lights. Thousands of people living their lives, dreaming their dreams. Once upon a time, Elena had been one of them. A simple village teacher with simple dreams. She'd never imagined wearing a crown or walking beside a prince. But life, she'd learned, had a way of surprising you. Love had a way of finding you in the most unexpected places. In the wreckage of a car crash, in the courage to help a stranger, in the choice to see past titles and stations to the person underneath. "What are you thinking?" Adrian asked. Elena smiled, touching the ring on her finger. "That I'm glad I stopped that rainy night. That I'm glad I chose to help you." "I'm glad too." Adrian's voice was soft. "You didn't just save my life, Elena. You taught me how to live it." In the years that followed, Princess Elena would face many challenges. There would be critics who never accepted her, traditions she'd struggle to navigate, moments when the weight of the crown felt too heavy. But there would also be triumphs. Schools built, policies changed, lives improved. She would become known not as the commoner princess, but as the people's princess, someone who never forgot where she came from even as she helped shape where the kingdom was going. And through it all, she would have Adrian. Her partner. Her love. Her home. Because some fairy tales don't start with "once upon a time." Some start with a rainy night, a crashed car, and a woman brave enough to stop and help a stranger. And some fairy tales, the best ones, aren't really about princes and crowns at all. They're about two people choosing each other every single day, no matter what the world throws at them. They're about love that survives fire and scandal and doubt. They're about building a life together, brick by brick, choice by choice, moment by moment. And in the end, that's the only kind of fairy tale worth believing in. The end. Belle, thank you for joining Elena and Adrian's journey. If you loved this story, please like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring tales. 2 hearts crown. Comment below. Red heart if you believed in their love from the start, crown if you'd want to be a princess like Elena, books if you loved the message about education and service, fire for your favorite moment in the story. What story should I tell next? Drop your suggestions in the comments. Your support means everything. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss a new story. Share this with someone who needs to believe in love today. Elena barely heard the rest. She was lost in Adrian's eyes, in the warmth of his hands holding hers, in the certainty that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. "I, Adrian Castellano, take you, Elena Martinez, to be my wife." Adrian's voice was steady and strong. "I promise to honor your dreams as I honor my duties. To lift you up when the world tries to tear you down. To be your partner in every sense of the word. In power and in service, in wealth and in simplicity, in celebration and in struggle, I choose you. Every day, for the rest of my life, I choose you." Elena's voice trembled as she spoke her vows. "I, Elena Martinez, take you, Adrian Castellano, to be my husband. I promise to stand beside you, not behind you. To remind you why we serve when duty feels heavy. To bring you home to earth when crowns feel too weighty. In palace halls and village streets, in spotlight and in shadow, in certainty and in doubt, I choose you. Every day, for the rest of my life, I choose you." When they kissed, the church erupted in cheers. Outside, villagers rang bells and threw flowers. News cameras captured every moment, but for once, Elena didn't care who was watching. She was Princess Elena now. But more importantly, she was still herself. 1 year later, Elena stood in the completed community center, another project Adrian had funded, but that she had designed and managed. It housed classrooms, a medical clinic, a library, and a computer lab. Children from 3 surrounding villages attended daily. Princess Elena. Sophia, now reading at a 5th grade level, ran up with a book. "Can you read with us?" "Always," Elena said, settling onto the floor with a group of children. Being a princess meant ceremonies and state dinners and charity galas. But it also meant she could do this, sit on the floor in jeans and a t-shirt, helping children discover the magic of stories. Adrian found her there an hour later. He'd been in meetings all day about economic reforms. Policies Elena had helped him develop to support rural communities. Ready to go home? He asked. Home was an apartment in the capital, far less ostentatious than the main palace. They'd made it their own, filled with books, photographs from the village, and a small garden where Elena grew herbs. Almost. Elena stood, brushing dust from her jeans. Sophia just finished her first chapter book. Adrian's smile was pure pride. Not for himself, but for her. Then we should celebrate. Ice cream on the way home. You're going to ruin your royal figure, Elena teased. I have a very wise wife who reminds me that life is about more than appearances. They drove home as sunset painted the sky gold and pink. In the back seat, Elena's phone buzzed with messages. Interview requests, charity invitations, the endless demands of public life. But she also had a message from her new principal. 20 more students enrolled this week. We're changing lives, Princess. Thank you. Elena smiled, typing back. We're doing it together. Regrets? Adrian asked suddenly. Elena looked at him. This prince who'd stumbled into her life broken and bleeding, who'd shown her a world beyond her village while never asking her to abandon her roots. Not a single one, she said honestly. It's not the life I imagined. It's harder, messier, more complicated. But it's ours. It's ours, Adrian agreed, taking her hand. That night, they attended a state dinner. Elena wore a designer gown and the sapphire ring that had belonged to Adrian's grandmother. She made small talk with ambassadors and smiled for cameras. But later, back in their apartment, she changed into comfortable clothes and curled up with Adrian on their couch, eating leftover pizza and watching a documentary about education reform. This is what I love most, Elena murmured. Not the galas or the titles. This. Just us. Just us, Adrian echoed. Though I should mention, my mother called. She wants to talk about potential heirs. Elena laughed. Already? We've only been married a year. I told her we're in no rush. We have a kingdom to improve first. Adrian pulled her closer. Besides, I'm still enjoying having you all to myself. Elena kissed him, tasting tomato sauce and promises. Outside their window, the capital city glowed with lights. Thousands of people living their lives, dreaming their dreams. Once upon a time, Elena had been one of them. A simple village teacher with simple dreams. She'd never imagined wearing a crown or walking beside a prince. But life, she'd learned, had a way of surprising you. Love had a way of finding you in the most unexpected places. In the wreckage of a car crash, in the courage to help a stranger, in the choice to see past titles and stations to the person underneath. What are you thinking? Adrian asked. Elena smiled, touching the ring on her finger. That I'm glad I stopped that rainy night. That I'm glad I chose to help you. I'm glad too. Adrian's voice was soft. You didn't just save my life, Elena. You taught me how to live it. In the years that followed, Princess Elena would face many challenges. There would be critics who never accepted her, traditions she'd struggle to navigate, moments when the weight of the crown felt too heavy. But there would also be triumphs. Schools built, policies changed, lives improved. She would become known not as the commoner princess, but as the people's princess, someone who never forgot where she came from even as she helped shape where the kingdom was going. And through it all, she would have Adrian. Her partner. Her love. Her home. Because some fairy tales don't start with once upon a time. Some start with a rainy night, a crashed car, and a woman brave enough to stop and help a stranger. And some fairy tales, the best ones, aren't really about princes and crowns at all. They're about two people choosing each other every single day, no matter what the world throws at them. They're about love that survives fire and scandal and doubt. They're about building a life together, brick by brick, choice by choice, moment by moment. And in the end, that's the only kind of fairy tale worth believing in. The end. Belle, thank you for joining Elena and Adrian's journey. If you loved this story, please like, share, and and subscribe for more inspiring tales. 2 hearts crown. Comment below. Red heart if you believed in their love from the start. Crown if you'd want to be a princess like Elena. Books if you loved the message about education and service. Fire for your favorite moment in the story. What story should I tell next? Drop your suggestions in the comments. Your support means everything. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss a new story. Share this with someone who needs to believe in love today.